Hi guys, it's me again, Jill, aka G.E. White. For those of you who don't know me, I am the author of the upcoming novel, Eyes of the Eternal. So today we are continuing with part 2 of our Pride Month read-along for The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I will be leaving a link in the description below where you can find the first part where we discuss chapters 1 through 11. Today we're going to be continuing on up until the end of chapter 22. So, lots of spoilers. You've been warned. Last we left off, Achilles and Patroclus, they had started a romance. They're in their teens, like about 16 years old. They are being trained by Chiron, the centaur. But, of course, they are now summoned back to the kingdom of Phthia and Achilles' father, King Pelles, to join up with the other kingdoms of Greece, as Helen of Sparta, the wife of Menelaus, has been kidnapped by Paris of Troy, and now everybody kind of has to answer Menelaus' call and join him in getting her back. It was a whole oath thing. You'll know if you watch the video from before. Of course, we then get into, Achilles is supposed to lead the armies of Phthia as like their commander, because his father is not in the greatest of health, so that's how it's gonna go. But his mother Thetis is aware of a prophecy that should Achilles go to Troy, he will not return. He will gain lots of fame and glory, but he will die. And there's a little bit of information that if Hector, who is the greatest warrior among the Trojans, once he dies, then Achilles will die shortly after. So, with that in mind, she decides to spirit her son away and hide him. So she hides him on this small island, and actually she hides him as a woman, which is kind of interesting. But she has made a deal with the king of the small kingdom by saying, okay, if you let him hide here and don't tell anyone, he will marry one of your daughters, or your daughter. I think he only has one, maybe. I can't remember. And so, yeah, he agrees, and Achilles is even he's coerced into having sexual relations with this young princess. And she becomes pregnant, and, supposedly they're married and all this kind of stuff. Patroclus follows, obviously, because we're actually following his point of view. And he finds Achilles, and there's a lot of emotional stuff that's going on here. I kind of want to gloss over it because there's a lot more to talk about. But all you need to know is that in the end, Odysseus and Diomedes, who are two other kings of Greece, they show up and they find Achilles and Patroclus and bring them back so they can join the expedition or not expedition, but the army of the Greeks to go and sack Troy. And once they arrive in Troy, things definitely are getting pretty real. Because, first off, Achilles is starting to warm up to this idea of being a fighter, of being very beloved by, his men, all that kind of stuff. They're very excited to fight alongside him, and he's kind of chomping at the bit. So when they arrive in Troy, the Trojan army is actually waiting for them. And this kind of puts a big wrinkle in their plans. They had hoped to, surprise them, and with the army waiting for them on the beach, they can't really land their boats. And so this is going to get really tricky. They're probably going to have lots of casualties. The war might even be over before it begins. But Achilles, he proves himself right then and there by, despite the fact that they're still a ways out, but the tide is carrying them in. He starts picking off soldiers on the beach by throwing his spear from his boat, and it's really quite amazing. And he kills several people that way, and breaks the line of the Trojans, who retreat, allowing the Greeks to land their boats. So once they arrive, they realize, okay, so Troy has these giant walls, or at least the city of Troy, I should say, has these giant walls. They're tall, they're thick. They're basically impenetrable. So instead of trying to break them down or climb over them or whatever, they decide they're going to raid the surrounding areas, namely the farms and the little villages, because these places, they feed the city of Troy. So if you take them out, you're cutting off parts of their food supply. Things are going to get very uncomfortable in the city of Troy as refugees start piling in. There's probably going to be, sickness will spread a lot easier, all that kind of stuff. And hopefully it will kind of make the Trojan army meet them on the battlefield one-on-one. So yeah, these raids start happening, and Achilles, as I said, he starts entering into them while Patroclus stays behind at their tent. And Achilles, he doesn't enjoy killing, but he is enjoying, being able to go at full tilt at this point. And but there is this worry that he has initially that Patroclus will see him differently. But Patroclus, he says nothing about it, and he just cleans Achilles off when he returns, wipes the blood off of him, all that kind of stuff, and, reassures him that, he is a good person and that, he still loves him. But as the raids are going on, we have to be aware that, the raids aren't just, stealing crops or burning down buildings or stuff like that. They are killing, innocent civilians and, raping, the women that live there. Now, for a while, they were just, they would attack the women there and leave them so they could flee to Troy. But now they're slowly starting to bring these women back to the camp to be spear wives, which are basically like sex slaves. So the first girl that shows up, her name is Briseis, and she is basically put among the spoils of the raid from that day. Now, the spoils are broken up and given, kind of parsed out to the soldiers and kings or whoever who have done the most work. Now, originally, Agamemnon was kind of taking the lion's share, despite the fact that Achilles was doing most of the work. So, Achilles at this time hadn't really cared. And it's actually Patroclus who convinces Achilles to go and claim the girl for himself, because he worries for her. And anyway, so of course Achilles claims her and brings her back to their tent, and they're very kind to her. They basically show her that okay, we're not interested in you in that way. We like each other, and we're gonna try and keep you safe. So they set up a tent for her. Patroclus starts teaching her Greek. It's really quite lovely. It's a lovely little kind of interlude in this stuff that's going on, because there are other women, unfortunately, who are being brought in and given to other kings, other soldiers to be their servants and slaves. Now Achilles is actually he's rounding up as many as he can take. So anytime he can claim a girl for himself, he does. And as I said, he has no interest in being with these women sexually. He just he's doing it almost like saving them, if you will, and putting them into this. They have their own tent and everything. And Briseis and Patroclus are teaching them Greek. It's quite lovely. But then we get into the actual Trojan War. And this is where things get really, really kind of messy. So diplomacy has failed. Helen doesn't want to go back to her husband, and the people of Troy are protecting her. So the armies need to meet on the battlefield. During this first encounter, Patroclus actually joins, and he joins for many of these battles that take place for hours or whatever. And the first time he is in battle, it's chaotic, and I really love the way that it's described, because it's just shock and awe that he's experiencing. But he does get to see that Achilles is in his element, and he's kind of enjoying himself in the sense that he finally gets to go full tilt, as I said before. Unfortunately, the armies are pretty well matched, and now there's a question of, should we take out Hector? Of course, Achilles doesn't really want to, and he replies, well, what has Hector ever done to me? So that's kind of where we're at. We know things are going to get a lot more dicey as time goes on, and I know I'm going to cry. It's going to be a lot. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll talk later. Once again, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you on the 30th. All right, bye.